Hey guys, so today I want to give y'all a final update to the Glacial Lance Deadeye. At this point, we are able to one-shot T4 Pinnacle bosses and clear maps with complete ease. It is a super fun build, and I've had such a joy making and playing this build. This video was a little bit delayed, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that, guys. It took me a while to make this, but I just didn't feel like there was a lot of updates between this video and the last video, and I was hoping to get a little bit more, but it is what it is. We're just going to come out with this video just to give you guys an update to where my character is. If you guys have been following along with the Mobalytics guide, which is, again, in the description below, that has been updated and has been updated since like last week with our current information. So if you're following along with that, this video guide will pretty much be similar information. But let's get into the character. We are currently a level 96 Deadeye. We are rocking 243 Dexterity and 205 Intelligence. The reason why we are kind of really high on Dexterity is because of the fact that we just slapped on Headhunter recently, and Headhunter gives us a lot of stats. So that's the reason why it's a little bit higher. When we have our Ingenuity, which is kind of our old setup, I guess, right? And our normal setup, it goes back down to how it looks like right now. But this is our current setup right now. We have all our resistance capped out, though when we put on the Headhunter, it isn't. That is something we could fix with more money, but yeah, that's gonna be more investment. But yeah, this is our character right now, rocking pretty much the same survivability stats as last time. The real updates come from the equipment and the skills. So since last video, I did end up adding an Unset Ring because I wanted to make sure I was able to get this in here, Orb of Storms. This was, I guess, an extra skill that we didn't have skill slots for when we went into bossing. You guys don't have to do this. What you can do is you can go ahead and take off, like, let's say Herald of Thunder, or you can even take off like Trinity, for example, when you're doing your bosses, because they don't really add too much to your damage. Herald of Thunder probably would be the best one to take off. But yes, you could take off Herald of Thunder and put in Orb of Storms and you'd be just fine, but I didn't want to do as much swapping, so that's why I added the Unset Ring. The Orb of Storms is really important because it allows us to put on Font of Rage onto it, so when we're going up to a boss, we can start building up Rage, which increases our damage, which is what allows us to do our one-shots. So we have Font of Rage, Blind, Persistence, and Brutality linked to this. Now, the reason why we have Brutality is because we operate off of some nodes here on the tree, which is more damage against enemies that are on full life and more critical chance when enemies are on full life. But when we use Orb of Storms, that obviously does damage. So we put Brutality on here in order to make it so that Orb of Storms does not do damage to the enemy and still gives us that rage that we need. So we can drop it down, it hits the enemy, doesn't do any damage. It'll still blind it, and you know, it'll still give you that rage. So that's the reason why we have this current setup right here. We made that change. That was really the most major change since the last video. Other than that, again, we did go with a Headhunter. This is something I just bought because I was mostly mapping, and this is a very nice mapping item. So we bought this since last time. But other than that, nothing has really changed too much with the gear or equipment. We still have our Deepest Tower offhand setup, our second weapon set setup, just to go and do our one-shots. So again, with our one-shot setup, we go put on Deepest Tower, swapped our second weapon set, we swap the chicken leg over here, and then we go and put in our Execute and Ambrosia onto our Glacial Lance. And with that, we are able to one-shot bosses. Oh wait, one more thing. We need to put on Wastegate, and then we put on a Mana Flask, just another Mana Flask. You don't, at least for me, my character, there doesn't need to be any special Mana Flask. Just double Mana Flask is perfectly enough to be able to one-shot. If you guys are still finding you're missing damage, what you can do is you find a flask with maximum charges, so like 54% increased charges, for example. I think it goes up to like 60 or 70 at max level, but the more charges that you have on your Mana Flask, yeah, this one is the one that I had bought that was like super high charges. So the more charges you have on your Mana Flask, the more damage it'll do because of Ambrosia, as you can see. Even though we aren't able to, well, if we take this off, we can't use Mana Flask anymore, but it will still let us use the Mana Flask charges for our damage for Ambrosia. So this is kind of our full one-shot setup. We have our low life setup, we have Ambrosia with our double Mana Flask. and we're using Ingenuity. Now, one thing to note, I do have this right here, a +3 projectile and increased critical damage bonus amulet. I bought this because I thought that this would be a better option for one-shotting bosses compared to Beacon of Aziz, because Beacon of Aziz doesn't give you much damage. All it does is make you ignore the elemental resistances of the enemies. And my thought was that if we had this node right here, Heavy Frost, we would be able to do essentially the same thing, because your hits ignore non-negative elemental resistances of frozen enemies, and then we'll be able to get a little bit extra damage with our this amulet. Unfortunately, though, that is actually not the case. What ends up happening when you take off the Beacon of Aziz is that you actually don't freeze the enemy soon enough, because you're not ignoring elemental resistances when you're hitting the enemy. It only starts ignoring when the enemy gets frozen, and we freeze them too late, so the majority of our damage goes out before that freeze actually hits, to make it so that Heavy Frost actually does its work. So unfortunately, it ends up being that the Beacon of Aziz still is, at the moment, the best option for one-shotting. During mapping, though, you can definitely use this, and this will be a nice little damage increase, but when you are bossing, you definitely want to use Beacon of Aziz. Personally, I don't want to deal with swapping that much, so I don't actually end up using this amulet at all. So it was a little bit of a waste of some money, but at the end of the day, it's up to you guys. If you guys are willing to do the swap during maps, then go ahead and do that, and you'll do higher damage during mapping when you use this this amulet. Though, if you are going to run some mods with like super high elemental resistances for enemies, the Beacon of Aziz might still be better of a choice there. So my opinion is, sadly, the +3 projectile skills with critical damage bonus amulet just isn't as good as I thought it would be. But yeah, that's kind of it though. There wasn't really too much updates with this video, but I just wanted to let you guys know my current status, my current situation of my character, and at the end of the day, right, give you guys that update that you've been looking for. So yeah, right now I'm doing a hardcore solo self-found challenge for a Hand of Chayula monk, because it was voted for by Twitch chat. So if you guys want to watch that type of content, please come hang out with me on my stream, twitch.tv/misoxshrew. I stream every single night. And if you enjoyed this video and this character, be sure to hit the sub button. It's the best way to support the channel, and you'll be updated with any future videos I have, and also any future build guides that I have when we come out with them in the future. So alright guys, hope you guys have a good one. I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace.